Would you like to play a game? Tara.
What's up, April here, and welcome back to The Struggle Is Real. Today I'll be recapping 2022's Scream, or Scream 5, or the Scream requel, whatever you feel in your heart to call it. That is what I'll be recapping today, just to give all you folks out there who are just in love with the Scream franchise as I am, a little bit of a recap before you go see Scream 6. Also, since this is a full-blown recap, there will be spoilers aplenty, so if you have not seen this movie yet, or you don't want it to be spoiled for you,
look away, child. Look away!
So without further ado, let's get into it. So the movie starts out with Tara Carpenter, who is played by actress Jenna Ortega, who is home alone waiting for her friend Amber to come over when, in true Scream fashion, the phone rings and of course it's Ghostface. He basically baits her into thinking that Amber is in peril and gives her a round of stab questions to which if she gets any of them wrong, Amber will die. However, basically when she has enough of answering all of these questions that she clearly doesn't know the answer to, she decides that she's gonna arm herself and go outside and possibly rescue Amber when of course Ghostface is outside waiting for her. He overpowers her and she is stabbed several times. Actually, she gets her leg broken and also stabbed several times before the cops show up. So now cut to a different part in Cali and we're introduced to Sam Carpenter, played by Melissa Barrera, and Richie, played by Jack Quaid. So Sam gets a call from one of Tara's friends back home that her sister Tara has basically been attacked by some rando in a Ghostface costume and that she's basically in stable but serious condition. So Sam, accompanied by Richie, who's her boyfriend and is being really supportive and stuff, Sam and Richie decide to go back to Woodsboro to make sure that Tara is okay. Now, every good Scream movie has a solid friend group, and in this Scream movie, we have Tara's friends: Amber, Wes, Liv, and twins Mindy and Chad. So her friends are visiting her in the hospital when Sam and Richie shows up, and everyone's pretty psyched to see Sam except for Amber, who all of a sudden is throwing like mad shade about the fact that Sam just popped back into Tara's life, and she kind of feels like she's gonna dip again because that's basically what Sam does. So later that night, the friends are at a bar, and Amber basically explains why she has problems with Sam is because Sam basically dipped on Tara and their family when they were teenagers, and she hasn't really been in town for like the past 5 years. Also, while they're at the bar, some random ass skeevy dude tries to hit on Liv. Now earlier he was actually outside the high school waiting for her as well, and Chad comes to Liv's defense because Liv and Chad are dating and they kind of get into it a little bit, but it results with everybody getting kicked out of the bar. So in the parking lot of the bar, Ghostface basically makes his first kill of the movie. He schmurders that rando that was in the bar bothering Liv, and he dead now. So that's it. Meanwhile, back at the hospital, Richie starts binge watching the Stab franchise because he claims that he's never seen any of them before, and you know, now that they're back in Woodsboro, he should probably, in case they encounter Ghostface or anything like that. Now in a different room, we see Sam take some medication, and all of a sudden she has a vision of Billy Loomis, one of the original Ghostface killers from the first Scream movie, and he tells Sam in this spectral vision that she needs to be honest with Tara and tell her the truth about why she could have possibly been attacked. What does that mean? We don't know yet, but it's super suspicious. Then she gets a call on her cell phone that is from maybe Amber, and she answers the phone and surprise, surprise, it's Ghostface, basically admitting that Tara was attacked just to get Sam to come back into town. However, when Sam calls their bluff, Ghostface basically comes out of nowhere in this break room and tries to attack Sam. And she fends them off, but by the time the cops get into the room, Ghostface is gone because, you know, Ghostface is actually a ghost and can just appear and disappear whenever they need to. So Sheriff Judy, who is a survivor from Scream 4, comes to the hospital to make sure everything's okay. Also, fun fact, Sheriff Judy is Wes's mom. She basically tells Sam that, you know, she kind of needs to leave and leave all of this to the cops because apparently when Sam was a teenager, she was a bit of a handful and made everyone's jobs super freaking difficult. So she tells her, listen, just dip, we got this, your sister's fine. Please leave. Also, apparently while Sam was being attacked, Richie's just chilling in the room
Watching Netflix,
not hearing the screams of his girlfriend or anything helpful like that. Also, Amber and the rest of the friend group were being questioned at the police station by Sheriff Judy, so they all have alibis as well. So with all this chaos going on, Sam basically drops the bombshell that she is in fact Billy Loomis's daughter, and that her and Tara do not have the same dad. And that's the reason why she left all those years ago, because she didn't want to hurt Tara and she didn't want to do any more damage to their family than she felt like she had already done. So Tara's pissed about this and she tells Sam to leave her alone, but Richie, being the supportive and doting boyfriend that he is, tells Sam that even though she's the daughter of a deranged serial killer, that he's gonna stick beside her.
That's mine.
I'm gonna stick beside him.
I'm gonna stick beside him.
So with nowhere to really go for help, Sam and Richie decide to go ask Dewey because, you know, we gotta bring in some OG Scream vets in here. So they go to his house and ask him basically to help them figure out who this new Ghostface is so that people won't get killed. But Dewey's basically just like, hell no. I got stabbed 9 times. I'm not about that life anymore. Miss me with that crap. However, he does give them some little gems of knowledge and shoots them some horror movie rules before they leave. First of all, he tells Sam to ditch Richie because they've only been dating for 6 months. It's usually always the boyfriend or the significant other, and he probably can't be trusted. Pretty solid advice if we're gonna be honest. Then he tells them that the killer is most likely within Tara's friend group because the killer is always within the friend group. That's just how it works. So with this information, they decide to leave and gather up all of Tara's friends so they could figure out maybe what's going on. Now, once they leave, Dewey actually calls Sydney to let her know that Ghostface has started a rampage again, and he also sends a text message to Gail letting her know to stay away from Woodsboro because Ghostface is killing. Apparently, Gail and Dewey haven't spoken in years. They are estranged, and Gail lives in New York and does a morning talk show, and Dewey does not work on the force anymore because he is a drunk. Awkward. However, Dewey very quickly has a change of heart and decides to meet up with Sam, Richie, and all of Tara's friends at the twins' house so she can explain her serial killer lineage to everybody that's there. We also find out that the twins' uncle is Scream OG Randy Meeks.
Randy!
And that the guy that was killed in the parking lot of the bar was OG Scream killer Stu Macher's nephew. So then, because the Scream franchise has been and always will continue to be meta, Mindy gives a huge speech in the same vein as her dearly departed uncle.
There are certain rules that one must abide by in order to successfully survive a horror movie.
To explain that they're in a requel, which is a reboot and a sequel of the Stab franchise, in an attempt to make this franchise relevant again. Because apparently the last movie in the Stab franchise was trash, and this Ghostface is clearly a super fan who is upset that the franchise has gone to the wayside. And so everyone connected to this series of killings is related to or connected to legacy characters from the original Woodsboro murders. Now Sam thinks that's BS. She's not in a movie, this is real life. And so she leaves and goes off by herself because it's a horror movie and people gotta do that sometimes. And as she's driving in her car, she gets a vision once again from her psychopathic dead father that tells her that she needs to nut up and kill the killer, as any good serial killer's daughter would, and protect her family. And that's not weird at all because this is definitely the advice that a spectral serial killer would give his daughter. Meanwhile, since no one's been killed in a hot minute, Ghostface calls
Sheriff Judy
and baits her into thinking that Wes is in danger, so she rushes back to their house only to get stabbed by Ghostface in the front of their house multiple times. Like in broad ass daylight, she basically gets shanked. Ghostface then goes into the house and murders Wes by stabbing him in his throat. All of this happens before the cops show up, of course. But you know who does show up at the scene of the crime? Gail. And she's super pissed at Dewey for sending her a text message about the fact that Ghostface is back instead of just calling her and letting her know what's going on. And we find out that Gail and Dewey's relationship ended because Dewey was actually miserable in New York with Gail. Not miserable with Gail, but just miserable being in New York. And so he decided to break off things with her and move back to Woodsboro. Then he basically drank himself to being kicked off of the force. So that part. Sam also makes it to the scene of Sheriff Judy and Wes's murder, and because all of the cops are there since the sheriff was just murdered, she's wondering who's at the hospital watching her sister since she's supposed to be on a private floor guarded by police. And the cops are basically just like, so Sam and Dewey race to the hospital to go rescue Tara. Now meanwhile at the hospital, Ghostface is already there. He already done killed a cop and he's definitely after Tara at this point. And even though Tara's supposed to be on a private floor, apparently no living souls work at this hospital at all. So that part. So then Richie conveniently shows up at the hospital at Sam's behest, but Ghostface shows up, overpowers Richie and knocks him out, and then calls Sam to make her choose who she wants to live between Richie and Tara. However, Sam and Dewey get to the hospital just in time to save them. So Dewey ends up scuffling with Ghostface and everyone else is just sitting there, just watching, not helping at all. Especially Richie, who just looks like he's just sitting watching his favorite movie.
If you like pina coladas.
But Dewey shoots Ghostface several times in the chest and tells Sam, Richie, and Tara to go downstairs while he doubles back to shoot Ghostface in the head because, you know, if you don't shoot Ghostface in the head, it doesn't even count. And you know what? Technically, he's right. However, Dewey's phone rings, he gets distracted, and Ghostface jumps up and then schmurders the shit out of him. Just like straight up prison shanks him in his back and stomach and guts him, and he's dead. So after narrowly surviving 4 Scream movies, multiple injuries, and a failed marriage, Dewey Riley finally dead, y'all. He gone. So when Gail gets to the hospital, she's obviously devastated that Dewey is dead, but like a shining light in the midst of a storm, Sidney Prescott appears to console her grieving friend. Now at this point, Sam and Tara are just like, we need to leave Woodsboro. People is dying left and right. We don't really need to be here anymore. But Sidney is like, hey, listen, these killings, Ghostface, clearly is gonna follow you for the rest of your life if you don't take care of it right now. But Sam's like, nah, chill, I'ma leave. I ain't got nothing to do with this. This isn't my problem. This isn't my story. I'm not gonna be a victim. So she dips. And as Sam and Richie and Tara are on their way out of town, unfortunately, Tara realizes that she doesn't have her inhaler and she needs it desperately. And apparently she has a backup inhaler at Amber's house, so she's just like, let's detour really quick and get my inhaler and then we can leave. And Richie is objecting. He's just like, no, this is a terrible idea. We've survived not getting schmurdered this far. Going to this house is a terrible mistake. We can get a new inhaler. But the ladies insist, so they end up detouring to go to Amber's house to get Tara's inhaler. Meanwhile, despite all of the schmurders going on, Amber is having a party at her house. I'm sorry, a memorial at her house for the dearly departed Wes. Also, Liv and Chad are getting a little bit hot and heavy on the couch, but when Liv suggests that her and Chad should go somewhere a little bit more private, a la Sydney and Billy from Scream 1, Chad actually puts a stop to that. He's just like, hell no, I don't really think that we should be going anywhere by ourselves. Also, no offense, you kind of could be the killer. Obviously, Liv is pissed by that, so she like storms off. So Chad foolishly goes outside to find her using this phone finder app, and guess what? Ghostface appears and he stabs Chad several times. Once again, it's more like a shank, like an angry shank, and then he leaves him for dead. So at the same time, Sam, Tara, and Richie arrive at Amber's house, and of course, everybody needs to get out the car because it's a horror movie and this is a part of the plot. Amber and Richie shut the party down so that Amber can go find Tara's rescue inhaler. Meanwhile, in a car, Sydney and Gail are actually tracking Sam's car because Sydney put a tracker on it back at the hospital, and they realize that Sam actually arrived at Stu Macher's old house, which coincidentally is now Amber's house. Suspicious? So Sydney calls Sam to warn her, and at that exact moment, Ghostface attacks Mindy. Sam fends him off, but then Liv comes into the house with blood all over her hands, and now everybody's accusing everybody of being Ghostface, and nobody trusts anybody anymore. And then, out of nowhere, Amber straight up pulls out a gun, shoots Liv in the forehead, and reveals herself to be the killer. So Richie drags Sam away to safety, but Sam is just like, I gotta go find Tara, like my sister's in jeopardy. And Richie's like, hold on though, there's always 2 killers. Tara's kind of the one that like told us to come back to the house. How do you know that you can trust your sister? She might be the second killer. But Sam's like, how do I know I can trust you? I just met you like 6 months ago. At least that's my sister. Some not right here. So she dips and leaves Richie to go find Tara. So Sydney and Gail end up pulling up to the house, and Amber comes out of the house like, oh my God, I'm in peril. Someone help me. But Sydney and Gail call BS on that. And because of that, Amber shoots at them, injuring Gail and wounding her in the stomach. So with Gail injured, she tells Sydney, listen, you gotta end this. Go inside, kill Ghostface, do it for Dewey. So Sydney goes inside by herself, armed with a gun, and she is very much on that shoot first, ask questions later thing. So behind one of the doors that Sydney shot is Richie, hiding like a coward, and now he's shot in the leg. And when Sydney tells him to come out, Ghostface all of a sudden appears behind Sydney and goes to attack her, and they fall over the staircase banister, knocking Sydney's gun out of her hand. But it's all good because Sam comes out of nowhere, she grabs Sydney's gun, she's getting ready to shoot Ghostface. She's like, Richie, stand over here, I got this. And right as she's about to shoot Ghostface, Richie stabs Sam in her side and reveals that, surprise, surprise, he is the second Ghostface. Surprising, No one. So then Amber and Richie take the time to explain to everyone why they've decided to go cuckoo bonanzas and take on this Ghostface mantle and schmurder a bunch of people. They're basically super fans of the Stab franchise, and they're pissed off that their beloved franchise has essentially become a mockery, and they thought, you know, if we commit these murders ourselves, we'll basically give the franchise, you know, some solid material to go off of. Because that makes sense. So if they commit some new murders and involve people from the original set of murders that are all connected, they'd be able to invigorate the franchise, and then it'll be able to be popular again in the way that it deserves. And because Sam is Billy Loomis's daughter, they would pin the entire thing on her because she would be the daughter of a serial killer, and it tracks since she's taken medication and seeing her dead dad ghost anyway. Unfortunately, and unbeknownst to them, Sam actually found Tara upstairs and untied her before Richie and Amber little spiel. So when Amber actually goes to find Tara, Tara attacks Amber with her crutches and actually starts beating her ass. After Amber fends off Tara, now she's in a tussle with Gail and Sydney, and in the ensuing battle, she gets hand sanitizer thrown into her face, shot, falls onto the stove, and lit on fire. So that part. Meanwhile, Sam and Richie are having their own one-on-one battle, which ends with Richie getting stabbed in his mouth and then stabbed several times, actually more than several times. I want to say like tens of several times. It looked like a solid 20-something times actually that he was stabbed, ending with his throat being slit. Then of course she shoots him a couple times for good measure because we don't want any killers coming back here. But of course, because there's always a last hurrah in every Scream movie, Amber comes out of the kitchen burnt and mangled, trying to attack the remaining survivors, but Tara shoots her straight up in the head. So now she's finally dead. For real this time. So the carnage is finally over, everyone leaves the house, we find out that Mindy is actually still alive, and so is Chad, despite being prison shanked and left for dead. And that's it! Our survivors live to fight another day, and most of them will be in Scream 6, where we have no idea who will live to see another day at the end of that movie. But I will be reviewing Scream 6 here on my channel, so stay tuned for that. Anywho, thank you so much for joining me for this recap of 2022's Scream. If you've liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, more movie and TV reactions, reviews, and recaps. And for The Struggle Is Real, I've been April, and I'll see you real soon. Peace!